Now, let's take a look at the college basketball national championship odds. I mean, it feels like there's got to be a little bit of value there. No team right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook is deeper than plus 650. I know, Zeno, that every year I end up, we get a little bit closer to March. We get to the conference tournaments. I log on to KenPom.com. I see that his stuff absolutely loves Houston. Every year I log on. I'm like, oh, Houston, the advanced analytics darling. And I end up betting them. Every single year heading into the tournament, they give me a fun little run and then end up being disappointing. What do you make of this board right now? Are there any wagers that you think look strong?
I mean, it's interesting that if you look at that board, and we bring the graphic back up again here, and you look at just the conferences that are there. I see a couple of Big Ten teams. I see a couple of Big 12 teams. I see a couple of SEC teams. There's only one Big East team there, and that's the favorite in UConn. And I don't think UConn is the best team in the country. The Big East is as stacked as you could imagine when it comes to the top of that conference. I think there's an argument as far as making the Final Four. Marquette, Creighton, all legitimate options to get there. And not that I necessarily believe that they are a national title team, but Villanova now gets in a very interesting spot here with a team that's got a lot of veteran presence and plays a certain style that a lot of teams struggle with because they play so slow and they're so effective from a shooting standpoint. But they get a chance, other than playing UConn, to run the table in the East and put themselves in position to become a top 25 team when they get, when we start talking about conference championship week and then into the selection Sunday. I think the Big East is undervalued. I think there are a lot of teams there that you can look at. I think a lot of those other teams we saw, teams like Iowa State, that have a lot of flaws and a lot of warts. But the Big East has a lot of complete teams. You look at Marquette. This is a team that's top 10 in KenPom. Creighton, top 20 in KenPom. These are teams that are top 25, both offensive adjusted efficiency and defensive adjusted efficiency on both ends of the floor. And it's hard to find that and the depth of that in a conference. Sure, you get the Big 12 that has, teams like Houston that have a lot of high watermarks, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But then you look to their offense and go, okay, well, there's a gap there. And I think that's where you look at some of those teams that I'd say have warts. They're just a little bit more unbalanced than some of the teams in the Big East. And when you talk about conference national championship odds, Davis, and getting to the floor, you got to find teams that do it well on both ends of the floor.
Yep, which is why I know I'm already staring into the future. I, of course, will be taking this Houston ticket. Maybe I'll just take it right now to get it out of the way. The number one team in adjusted defense on KenPom. Interesting for me as a more casual observer to see Alabama, an SEC team not known as like a real powerhouse basketball school in general, to be number one in adjusted efficiency on offense. Very excited to getting to the tournament, learning more about all of the players. I have heard it's a very weak incoming NBA draft class, so kind of always interesting how that impacts the way that I, as a big NBA fan, view the tournament. And speaking of the NBA, we are going to be getting into it with Coach James Young here very soon. Zeno and I are going to go ahead and run into break here real quick on the program. Some NBA conversation coming up with you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back on the grid here in a few moments.